But let's go ahead and get this interview started. Again, if you're tuning in, please follow us on Stay.Anchored so you can see and meet Chris, um, our male therapist here at Anchored Counseling. All right, Chris. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, before I start, just for the viewers, you know, just say a little bit about you if you all don't know this about Clee. I was introduced to Ecclesia from a colleague, my confidant. We interned together, and I only known Clee for maybe about 2 months. And what I found out about her is there's a sweet and spice to her spirit. A very genuine person in the heart, but she adds a little pepper to it to really get you going and help you bring about your best you. And so I just love that about her. So I appreciate, and I think all the colleagues can agree, just the way you allow us to practice in our personality and to be who we are. And so that's real good for the clients because when they come to see us, they know they're not getting a cookie cutter type of deal. So as soon as you go to the page, Stay Anchored, I mean, our personality just hits you right in the face. And so that says a lot about you. So thank you. So, um,
That sweet and spicy. That's a new one for you. Sweet
sweet and spicy. Okay. Okay. So a little bit about myself. Well, my name is Chris McClendon. First of all, I'm a man who loves God, from my heart. Also, I'm married. I've been knowing my wife for 11 years. We've been married going on 6 years this year, okay, in September. We have 3 children, 2 through marriage, 1 together. We have a blended family. And so I've been knowing my kids through marriage for some time now, since they were 3 and 4 years old. They're 14 and 15 now. And so I remember when my wife and I, when we were dating, um, as we were getting to know each other, my eldest daughter, she said, "I want him to be my daddy." I'm like, "Huh?" And she was like, "Daddy?" I was like, "Daughter?" Remind you at this time I haven't had any children of my own. And so it's just been love at first sight. And, my youngest son, I just had to fix him oatmeal just one time. I mean, and he fell in love. And so, and then we have a child together. Now, this is my special gift. And the reason why is because she's 4, she'll be 5 this year, is because we had her on birthday, October the 1st. And so her name is Harmony Monroe, and she's the gift that just keeps on giving every year. And there's nothing you can do to top that. I can't top that gift. And people say, do you have birthdays anymore? No, not really. I mean, before people tell me happy birthday, they say, "Oh, yeah." They say, "Happy birthday, Harmony." "Oh, yeah, Chris, and you too." So that's just my life in a nutshell. Yeah.
Okay, cool beans. I actually did not know that about you myself, Chris. So, and you bring up something good that I'm always talking about, which is dating with children. And so, meeting your kids that young at ages 3 and 4, and then they like, "I want you to be my daddy," like that can scare somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Scare somebody. So, if you don't mind, just tell me like what did dating, someone who had, 2 kids look like? And if you're just tuning in, watch us. You can see Chris on Stay.Anchored on IG, so that way you can see him as well.
Yeah. So, you know, it can be scary, and it was a little scary. And I think the scary part is because I didn't have any children, so I didn't know what to expect. And you begin to wonder, like, how much responsibility am I going to have to put into this relationship? And when you know, in a relationship with someone who have children, then you automatically, in some way, become somewhat responsible, and you have to be accountable. You become a role model and things like that. And so, as a single man, it was a little bit challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at the same time, what I had to realize is that I came into the relationship with some things in my past that needed to be worked out as well. And so we developed a philosophy, and it was basically, um, if we were going to be together, it is to accept the things that we can't change and change the things that we cannot accept. And so there were certain things that I could not change, and she had to say, well, I accept this. And there were certain things she could not change, like children. And I had to make that conscious decision to say, I accept that as well. So,
Definitely. Well, here y'all are, 11 years later. Love is definitely a beautiful thing. So let's switch gears a little bit. Talk to me about your journey as a therapist and what you do, the magic that you make in the therapy room.
okay. So professionally, I'm an associate licensed professional counselor. I've been practicing for about 3 years. I have a little background in substance use. I was contracted as the lead clinician for the Fulton County DUI court program. And so coupled with that was doing individual counseling, working on issues of trauma or resentment, unforgiveness and things like that. And so in an array of a whole bunch of psycho educational classes that I facilitated. And so that's kind of me professionally. I'm a Christian author of a book, Seven Steps to Receiving God's Blessing. It's a published book. You can find it on Amazon. And I do a lot of freelance speaking. And so professionally, I would say that's a snapshot of who I am.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit more about your book. What inspired you to write that book?
So that's a pretty good question. Okay, so before I became a counselor, I lived a reckless lifestyle. Okay,
What about reckless?
what I mean by reckless, underage drinking,
Okay.
uh, doing illicit drugs, wild and reckless parties and things like that. And I'm talking about how I came to write this book. And so, the night before my accident, I was an adolescent and I heard this voice that said, Chris, go in the house. And I did not recognize what it was. And then I heard it again at a louder tone. It said, Chris, go in the house. And I turned to the side to my female friend and I said, hey, you're saying anything to me? Are you asking me to go in the house? She was like, no, it's not me. And then for the third time, I heard at his loudest peak, Chris, go in the house. And so I didn't recognize the voice. And immediately after, I started drinking and smoking. It went completely away. And then the night of my accident, we was at one of those reckless parties I was talking about. We got into an altercation. We hastily left the party. It was the driver. I was in the front passenger seat, and it was two backseat passengers. And I remember going up into a stop sign, and we had to either go right, which was going to take me home, or left, which was going to take us on a night of unpredictable acts. And we went left, and we went off the road. We hit a telephone pole, split it in two, and immediately I was paralyzed, chest down, and the doctors told me I would never walk again. And so here I am on my bed of paralysis. And I said, Lord, if you allow me to walk again, I don't matter how slow it is. I say, I'll do what you want me to do. And I say, but if that is not your will for me, just allow me to know what I am to do in this condition. And I'll accept it. Give me the strength to go through it.
Wow.
And so at the time being, I tried to move my leg and then it just moved. And I was only supposed to be in therapy for 3 months. It ended up being 6 months. And it moved and it moved. And so I said, I got to go tell the people. So I went back to my high school and I went and told the people, and my message was, warning comes before destruction.
Mm.
Before you're warned, before you're destroyed, you're warned. I mean, if you don't recognize the warning, whether don't pay attention to it, you ignore it, dismiss it, whatever, warning comes before destruction. And so I went into my high school and someone saw me and they say, can you speak to my high school? And I'm getting to telling you how to write this book. And they said, can you speak to my high school? And I went to their high school, and I found myself going to high schools all over Georgia. And then I said, oh my goodness, what about the people who are incarcerated?
Mm.
Who are going to tell them? And so I said, I guess I got to go inside the jails. So single-handedly, I volunteered. I started going inside the jails and just talking to the inmates, the juveniles, and just telling them warning comes before destruction, warning comes before destruction. And then they said, well, Chris, you know, you can only do so much with without a license.
Mm.
And I said, what? I said, all right. So I bust open the doors of Liberty University. I said, okay, I got to go get this degree. I gave them this piece of paper and I said, let me get back to doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then God he spoke to me this book. I mean, immediately. A lot of times you have to do a blueprint and things like that. But he spoke to me this book.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you know, these are the steps to receive my blessing. And I began to write them down. I thought it was just notes. And I began to write them down, write them down. And I just kept writing. I kept writing. I was like, God, you're getting me to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just wake up. It was like a spirit pulling me out of bed in the morning and just to keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. And I went into the Bible to make sure it just wasn't my mind just going off. And everything that he told me was found in the Bible. And that's really how this book came about.
Chris, I want to go back for a second. And to those of you who are just tuning in, we are live on Stay.Anchored, as well as my personal IG, but definitely follow if you want to see Chris, you want to meet Chris, you want to hear his testimony. Will you tell us the name of your book again?
It's 7 Steps to, now it's the number 7 and it's 2. It's 7 steps to receiving God's blessing. And I put that number 2 to represent you cannot box God in. He's unique like that.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back to what you said when you were telling us your story and you were talking about how you heard a voice and God said, go back in the house. And you ain't go back in the house. You ain't listen. And a lot of times, and this, it's something that I talk to clients about. You heard a warning, whether it was about a relationship, whether it was about a job. You heard purchase it on Amazon. I'm answering questions too, Chris, as I'm talking to you. So
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
The power just went out in the house. Well,
wow. Imagine that.
I talk to people about, not listening to, some people refer to it as your conscience. Some people, refer to it as an inner voice, but I refer to it as the Holy Spirit. Like, it's God talking to you. He gives you messages. It's just up to you whether or not you are keen to listen. You're tuning in. And so when you talk about that night before, you got in your accident and, God was telling you, to go back in the house, go back inside, and you just kind of ignored it and pushed it out. That's one of those things, that I talk to people about, and really training yourself to re-listen, because we get so caught up in the world that we don't listen. We
right.
tune it out. And so,
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I really appreciate that story. How old were you when you got in that accident?
I was 17 years old. It was June 3rd, 2004. So it just hit 16 years just about 2 days ago.
Wow. You were 17. You got in an accident where you were paralyzed from the neck down. They said you wouldn't walk again. And you are walking, talking, drinking water or whatever you got in that cup and talking to us today.
Water. Holy water.
All right, holy water. Talking to me about your story, your testimony, and how you have been brought to the counseling profession to continue to spread that word of God. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. Type it in. Be more than happy to address those questions that you have as we continue to go through this interview. Again, 7 Steps to God's Blessing, available on Amazon. Anywhere else it's available, Chris?
Just on Amazon as of right now.
Okay. It's available.
That's the main channel.
And so, moving along, tell us about this 7-step group that is starting in July.
So on July 9th, what I'm starting is a 7-step Christian group program. And so what is it about? It is practically it's 8 weeks, and it is practically taking us through the 7 steps of this book. Okay, and so we're meeting once a week for 90 minutes once a week. And those steps are, so the steps that we will be going through is step one. This is how practical they are. Okay, it's step one. That is prayer. This is where we talk to God. Okay, and then step two, it's listening. What Ecclesia was just talking about, and this is when we allow God to talk back to us. And this is a crucial step because many people say, "I'll pray about it. I'll pray about it. I'll pray about it." And I ask them, I say, "Well, what did God say about it?" And they really don't know. So step two is listening. You have to listen to God. Step three is faith. So once you hear God's voice, then you have to decide what to do with it, whether you're going to believe it or whether you're not going to believe it. And if you believe it, well, then you're going to start doing it. Isaiah 30:21, it says, "Thy ears shall hear a word saying, this is the way, walk in it." And so if you hear it, then you must begin to walk in it. So that's step three, faith. Then step four is obedience. Okay. We cannot expect God to do all that we want him to do for us and never do the things he wants us to do for him. Okay. And step five is expectation. If you're not on the lookout, you will miss out. Okay. And so you have to begin to expect God. This will motivate your recovery. A lot of people know this as confirmations, oh, that's a confirmation. Oh, that's a confirmation. And it lets you know that you're going in the right direction. And so step six is patience. Okay. And so you have procrastination and patience. Procrastination is something waiting on you, but patience is you waiting on something. And so in this book, I define patience as waiting past your time of expectation. And so a lot of times people say, I'm only waiting this long. And if that is your expectation, then that is not enough. So patience begins when your expectation ends. And so that's how I define that. And step seven is receiving. And this is when God begins to really just pour his grace out on you, and you will definitely recognize it. But this step is not always so easy, because even at the stage of receiving a blessing, some people still reject it. And you say, well, why would they reject a blessing? Because it didn't materialize in the way that they thought it would materialize in.
Mm-hmm.
And so they reject it, because that's what they did with Jesus. The promise of his coming was in the old prophetic, and they thought he was going to come kingly in this robe and to overthrow the Roman government and things like that. But he did not come in that way. He came in a manger. He came riding on a donkey, and he came in a human form. And so when people saw that, they say, "Oh, no, 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 that's not what I want." And so they rejected him. And so those are the 7 steps. Thanksgiving is not a part of the 7-step process, but I include it as a praiseworthy act, because if you don't recognize it is God who blesses you, then you cannot give him the glory. And so those are the steps that I walk, participants through in the 8 weeks.
Okay. So is this group open to anyone?
So this group is for adults, and it is co-ed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so co-ed.
And let me add this: is this group to anyone? Listen, if you have a relationship with God, or at least if you want one with God, okay, that is who it is open to. Just your willingness, okay? Because when we're talking about receiving God's blessing, no one wants to be in a relationship for what they have. They want to be in a relationship for who they are. So you must genuinely have a relationship with God, or be willing to explore that area of your life.
All right, we have a question here. If you were to give the first step to practice and eventually developing patience, ooh, this is a hard question. What would
Hmm.
it, if you were to give the first step to practice and eventually developing patience, what would it
Okay. So if your prayer request, what I hear uh, this particular person saying is, if your prayer request is patience, what would that look like in a practical way as far as developing it?
So I don't even necessarily know if they're asking specifically about prayer. And from what I was told from the old folks is you don't pray for patience because God will make you wait longer. So I was told that old folks saying don't pray for patience. But I think what they're saying is if I'm trying to strengthen my patience, what do I do?
Okay. Well, if you're trying to strengthen your patience, the first thing you would want to do is you would want to pray for it. Okay. So you would want to talk to God about it, and then what happened is you would want to begin to read. Okay. All right. And so His Word begins to talk to you through His Word, and then from there you're going to have small incremental things that are going in your life that you feel that you need to just start on working on patience. Start with the small things first, okay? And develop the momentum, okay? And the thing about this is that when God is helping you with this and you're practically working on it, then you'll find yourself being able to overcome things that were not able to overcome before. So don't try to take on those big tasks. Start with the smaller tasks first, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
then work your way up.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's say I'm a guy. I've been dating. I've been out here in these streets, and I am really trying to find my wife. Is this group going to be helpful to me?
Yeah, of course, because again, the one of the first things it says, seek first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be added to it. And that's what we will be doing. We'll be seeking God, and we'll be seeking His will. And so when we begin to pray for that wife, for that chosen wife, uh, and hearing back from God, one thing God is probably going to tell you to do is, now, if I'm preparing this beautiful wife, you know. I need to make sure you're going to do what you need to do by her, because she is from me. So then we have to begin to work on the individual to make sure they're in a place to where not only they can have the wife of that God has sent them, but so they can also be that man who God wants them to be for that wife as well.
Okay. And again, if there are any questions from the audience, please definitely type it in. Let me know so I can ask it. So I am, I'm a female. And right now, I am really questioning like what God is doing. We got COVID-19 on my left. We got racial trauma on my right. You know, I don't know
Hmm.
where I am right now in life. Is this group going to be helpful to me?
Absolutely. Because one of the things is that um, it said in the Word became flesh, and so a lot of times we have a strong desire, but we have to make it flesh. We have the mind of Christ, but we are supposed to be His body, and so a lot of times we're saying, God, what are you doing? And He's asking the same question. He's saying, what are you doing? And so we want to begin to find out, like, do as much as we can do that God has called us to do. And then we want to have faith in God to do His end. And so that's the first thing we want to do. Talk to God, see what He wants, begin to just take care of those steps. And a lot of times we want to think ahead, that anxiety causes us to think ahead because we foresee the future as being something bad. But the good news is that when you just trust in God and do your part, you can leave the future part up to Him.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely good stuff, man. I was just sitting here reflecting on, conversations I've had, with old
Hmm.
friend I've had over 13 years now. And just
Hmm.
thinking the way that our lives have literally transformed, and just, become new. We talk about it, it's nothing but God, nothing but God. Which I think is absolutely amazing. Again, if you're just tuning in, we have Chris. He's our spiritual therapist. He's talking about a Christian group, 7-step Christian counseling group that is starting July 9th. And he just shared his testimony with us. He's given us a little bit of insight as to what the book is about. Chris was paralyzed from the neck down at 17 years old, and he is now walking, talking, sipping holy water over there, looking at us plain as day. And so, before we end, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the box. Chris, was there anything else that you'd like to add or any last remarks?
Yeah, this there are 5 stages of change, all right, that psychologists have identified, and that is the pre-contemplation stage. That's where things are happening, but you cannot see it. So you say to yourself, there's not a problem. And then there's the contemplation stage, and that's where you recognize that there's a problem, but you're not ready to do anything about it yet. And then there's the preparation stage where you identify that there's a problem and now you're starting to prepare for it. If you're in that stage, if you want to be in that stage, if you're tired of, allowing life to beat you down, this group is for you. It's no reason that you should be going through, the mental struggles and things like that when God has made a way to be able to remove those things. Okay. Therapists are the practicality of removing those things. We will help you get to work. The faith is good. It is great. But the faith without the work, then it is dead. And the Bible says the body without the spirit is dead. So just like faith without works is dead. And this is the unique blend that this group puts together. It puts faith to and it couples it together with works because they're not separate. They are two sides of one coin. If you have the coin, you have both sides. If you find the coin and you have two heads, it's not a real coin. You find the coin and it has two tails, it's not a real coin. Faith and works is one coin with two sides. And so what I find a lot happening, and those who are listening, is that you have the faith, and then when it comes to working, when those situations come to where it calls you to action on your faith, you either are afraid to do something about it or you don't know how. Okay. I want to help you to learn how to do something about that faith. So when it's time for that faith to work, it won't die. Okay. It can live, it can thrive, and it can produce what it needs to produce for you. And then on the other hand, there are people out there who have works and no faith. Well, what do you mean? How do you have works and no faith? Well, what happens is they overwork themselves because that's all they have is works.
Mm-hmm.
They are afraid to delegate other positions to someone else because they don't think that it is going to come out the way they want it to come out. And so we kind of bring that God down and minimize him to the experiences that we had with other people. And so when God says, I need you to do all you need to do, and we do that. And then when it's time for God to do his part, we get a little scared and we say, oh, Lord, you sure you got that? And so we call ourselves helping him out. And a lot of times when we help him out, we cross the boundaries into areas that, we don't have the ability to work out, and we become overburdened, overwhelmed and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I want to, and I have psychological tools, okay? Psychological tools, the locus of control, where I can test you and find out where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Are you on that part of where you just have a lot of faith and not really works, or a whole lot of works and not a lot of faith? I can find out where you are, pinpoint where you are, and we could begin to bring you into that middle ground where you can mix together that uniqueness of faith and works. And if that motivated my recovery, and following these steps motivated my recovery from paralysis, paralyzed chest down, just imagine what it can do to you. This is my story. Go on YouTube, Chris McClendon, Fox 5. You can see my story live, okay? It's a Fox 5 exclusive, and it walks you through the steps when I was paralyzed, chest down, and they do a wonderful story. And so it is a miracle. You will be able to see it. It's not just me talking. You'll be able to see it for yourself. So I encourage you to do that. And that's all I have for you.
Yeah, I encourage you all to do that as well. Just to let you know, so if you're like, hey, I'm really digging Chris, but I'm not too sure about the group, he also does individual therapy as well. You can go on our website at stayanchored.org, and, book a consultation with Chris, find some time to link up and talk to him. With the group, materials are also included, so that will include his book, that will also include a CD, and I think it's one more thing in there. Yep, it includes all of that, if you want to get his group. But Chris is a phenomenal therapist. He would not be with Anchor Counseling if he was not. Like he said in the beginning, like, I really enjoy pushing people to be who they are in the therapy room. So it's not cookie cutter. Like he said, he finds out where you are. He meets you where you're at. And together, y'all go on this journey, called life. And, right now people are really in need of additional support. So reach out. If this was specifically for you, you know when God's talking to you, when you hear that voice, and when it's something that you just need to do that you've been contemplating for a while. So thank you all for tuning in. Chris, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Again, you can look up his story. You can go on YouTube, Chris McClendon, Fox 5. And you can also check him out on stayanchored.org. And you can book him for individual therapy. The group starts July 9th. Thank you all so much.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.